can you build a 1 truck, 5 truck, 10 trucks? Yes. But can I have the confidence to replace my entire fleet with hydrogen truck? I think that will take time. I think before I could read, I would say Hindi or English, I think that taught me differential equations. Because if you look at like the amount of air pollution, it's not just the vehicular pollution on ground. I mean the pollution that is being generated, which we don't see by the planes that are flying above us, or those are also the areas where I think hydrogen can play. Laser focus, the culture, these are like definitely I would say things that I hope that like if there's a book written on entrepreneurship, these are the first 2 chapters.
So welcome to part 2 of this episode with Saurav, here on the hot seat at Maxson Mobility. And let's get back to the question that we have. So Saurav, are you ready for a few more questions?
Yes, go ahead.
So I have a question about what next in the EV space. So let's take EV specifically. So, this is an evolving ecosystem. What next? Are you anticipating as an OEM, which could be a kind of a inflection change in the EV ecosystem itself, be it battery or in the, do you want to take a punt at that? What do you see?
So for us, I think our view right now, I mean, one thing that we are constantly trying to figure out is the, I would say, charging speed part, right? Like that's something that we constantly try to push that boundary. I mean, what's the right price point or the infrastructure problem without getting into too much of infrastructure or like standardization and these issues. What is the right charging speed that you can give? Because what we have seen across different customer segments, right? I mean, the FMCG or the e-commerce or the last mile or the first mile or I mean, and some of this starts to dilute as you go toward, let's just say, a tier 2, tier 3. I mean, the way we structured this is tier 1, I mean, this is first mile. The problems are like they're going from one district center to the other one. I don't know if you will call that mid-mile, first mile word, but that's their day-to-day like lifestyle, and then they're within cities. So when you think about that lens and you look at what is the upfront price of the vehicle, and the battery prices and some of that. So I think charging speed is one point, that how quickly can you charge the vehicle, because then you can lower the battery pack size,
Right.
and without like pushing the value of the vehicle a lot. That's one area. The second area, and this I would say is not as much, I would say, comes up in 3-wheeler, but as you would go up, as you would have vehicles that can run, let's just say a 4-wheeler, you can use it for 100, but there are 200-kilometer jobs also that you can get out of cities, and people do that. So that variability is a lot. In 3-wheelers, that variability is lower. So hence the challenges are lesser. But I believe that as you go up, you have a larger battery pack, your cooling system.
What about this systems like solid state batteries? What do you have a view on that?
So so that is on the cells. So this is within. I mean, so as to charging speed will mean cells. It would mean the cooling. It would mean so the charging infrastructure. All of that combined will solve for the charging. So again, it's an ecosystem value delivering together. So one thing that you will note, all of this is no one company will come and solve all of this.
Which is one thing I've always appreciated about you. You've always taken ecosystem view. Always said that all of it needs to come together for it to fall in place, even in an automobile. So you, right now you might be working with a lot of partners, right? The supply chain. Then recently the question about how sorted is the supply chain for EV manufacturing in India? How has been that challenges, journey in that space?
So quickly, let me answer that solid state point and let me come to that. So in commercial, I think, I mean, my view is, when you think about the commercial technology, I think there's a good amount of work happening in, I would say, sodium ion. That's one area that I constantly have been tracking a lot. Solid state more so for passenger sort of, I think that's where your buck for the kilowatt, or the people are a bit okay with giving you higher sort of price point, because there it's still I would say a luxury buy, right? In commercial vehicle, it's like everything. We are very, very sensitive to the value and the price that you get for the vehicle, right? So in commercial, I feel like sodium ion would have like a better bet. But solid state is like one. But having said that, like whether it's lithium air, sodium ion, or lithium, I would say iron phosphate and nickel cobalt, like a mixture of some of those. There have been like all sorts of work that I've been seeing. I think that is one area in chemistry that will go. The second is obviously how do you get 2C, 3C done on it, and it's like when you do this fast charging, you're increasing that current, and your heat is going exponentially on an increasing path. So how do you cool it and all of that? So I think that's a very interesting problem.
And what about hydrogen? What's your take on hydrogen?
See, so my view is when you think about all of the segment, if your vehicle are on ground, I'm talking about the trucks, right? I feel medium and heavy commercial vehicle, I feel that's an area where hydrogen can make some sense, and that's mainly because your parasitic weight of the battery pack that you would be carrying around, even when it's discharged, is going to be like very, very high. But in your last mile, I don't think like if you're putting hydrogen in a 3-wheeler or on a 4-wheeler or a smaller 4-wheeler, I think that's the right. I think there your energy efficiency, the way we measure, right, like well to wheel, like from where you took it to the all the way till ground, electric is way superior in that efficiency. So I feel electric, I mean, will always find its way.
How many years before hydrogen, for the form factors that we discussed, hydrogen will have its say in that segment? How far?
See, I would say, I mean, it would take a bit of time. I'll tell you also. So one is the technology part, right? The other is when does the ecosystem get comfort, right? Like I would say, for instance, even in the 3-wheeler cargo, which is like, one of the where the TCO makes most beautiful sense, right? And one of the reason why we went after that segment first, it has taken us what 6.5 years before we are now delivering 500 vehicle to a partner, right? Those examples takes time.
Right.
Can you build a 1 truck, 5 truck, 10 trucks? Yes. But can I have the confidence to replace my entire fleet with hydrogen truck? I think that will take time. It will take time because you need that infrastructure, you need that financing, the TCO also take much longer on there. So confidence on this vehicle being able to return capital over 5, 10 years, 15 years, because of that it's going to take a bit of time. Here, so there is this competition, right? Like, so if you look at a cross commercial vehicle, you have the smaller commercial, then the light, intermediate, medium and heavy, all of that, right? So across this segment, if you go to 2010, at that point of time, I would say ICV and all, or LCV, there would be a doubt that from there I would rather do hydrogen, because the amount of space that I have in the vehicle to put the battery pack and the weight that it will have, hydrogen will have better efficiency. But today, that boundary is like getting shifted more and more, because your energy density has improved significantly in terms of like these cells are becoming lighter, and they are carrying more amount of energy in the same volume. So that means today, I think in LCV, I don't think hydrogen would be the right. You would have electric vehicle. Obviously, you need like fast charging and some of that, and you are talking about megawatt chargers as well, because you are talking about 500 kilometers range or like 200, and how do you push all of that in a time that the person had just finished the meal, right? Like so that is an interesting ecosystem problem also to solve, but it's a solvable problem and there are answers for it. So as I think your batteries are becoming solid state, or the energy density is being pushed further and further, volume, the amount of volume in which that is being pushed, I think your hydrogen is going to get pushed and pushed.
Right.
The other areas, I mean, interesting area, I mean, if you are off the, I would say, ground, your ships are a good example where I think hydrogen can play.
Oh, that's a very interesting thought. Sort of ships.
Plane,
Transformers.
because I mean your I mean aviation, because if you look at like the amount of air pollution, it's not just the vehicular pollution
yes,
on
it's
ground. I mean the pollution that is being generated, which we don't see by the planes that are flying above us, or those are also the areas where I think hydrogen can play really, really.
That's an interesting fact that because this is Maxson Mobility, we would have someone from the aviation industry also coming in and talking about that. But that's a very interesting way to look at decarbonizing logistics. It's not only what's there on land, but on sea and also on air. But this is a great conversation.
And by the way, Euler, if you see, there are 3 logos, right?
Yes.
3 lines in that logo.
Uh-huh.
You know now where those 3 lines comes from.
I was about to ask you. So tell me the reason. Why did you name the company Euler, and what is it about that logo?
Oh, so Euler, other than me coming from an engineering background and liking the name, right? So electric vehicles at the essence, at the core, is like combination of mechanical engineering, the earlier vehicle, and then the electric batteries and everything, right? So just hold on with that thought, right? So Euler coefficients are used in your mechanical engineering, Eulerian angles or theorem, and the coefficient is E, which is also symbol of electron, and electron is like your charge, which is electric vehicle batteries, and so E was more like something that kind of combined both that word. It came from there, but then we also thought about like building the global brand, like thinking about like building the best electric commercial, like making Euler synonymous with commercial. So we thought like Euler could be a name that we can take it to a global market. People can associate themselves with that brand as a global brand, and I think that was
that's deep. In fact, like we talked about Q26 Euler, because for me Euler was more mechanical and less electrical. So sort of that's interesting. But tell me about this thing. You talked about the logo, but there are those. Euler has those 3 bars. What exactly does it signify?
So,
what does it come
so 3A, I'm fascinated by the number 3, but that's a separate topic, separate discussion point. But so one was we want to not just build vehicles for the ground. We were thinking about the entire, like wherever, if there is an engine running, if there's a possibility, we want to make it electric. So land, air, sea. So that those are the 3 things.
Aspirationally, Euler intends to.
If you think the 3 forms, right? So when we said we want to transition, or I would say accelerate the transition of energy. So first line is utilization of energy. Second, it's storage of energy. The third line is creation of energy. Right now, we are saying electric mobility is a way of like that energy has been produced somewhere. It has already come in through the grid. But what is the best way that you can consume that instead of burning it, that fuel in an ICE engine, let's use an electric vehicle. So right now we are solving for the first line, right? The second is over a period of time, we also want to figure out what are the good ways to store this energy. Is lithium the only way, or are there other forms of, it could be sodium, it could be like, can we get away off with all the lead acid and do some of this, right? So storage of energy. And the third is creation of energy. Can we get away while all of this, like, I mean, the one point that I always find about electric vehicle that or NASers that often talk about is ki all the pollution is now like, electricity is coming from the coal burning.
Correct.
Like figuring out is there is a way to find, like, it could be tidal, it could be geothermal, different forms of like energies that can be harnessed, which are more sustainable and bring that energy. So all the way going to the well part and to the wheel part, right? So those are the other 3 lines that, if you see all of those lines, they all start small and they all grow big. So that's just the journey. It's to constantly push us that it's a, I would say, hope that is trying to give you that we want to progress further in this. So that's the why all of that sort of goes and sort of increases all three of them.
Okay.
So this it's just and there are more like visual, like the way when we were developing. So it was like vehicle. If you take like a I would say exposure, like along the exposure frame of a track, the lights that it leaves, right? Like so, it's the
Yes.
vehicle. So what Euler is like living the foot like system. So that's how it was thought.
That's very interesting. So for those entrepreneurs out there, or to be entrepreneurs, it's very important.
You have to be
think this
passionate
through.
about everything. Like I mean, very passionate about how should the
That's
logo
the
should
typical
be.
engineer and a builder and all of that coming
The
on
electric,
together.
sustainable future. I mean, all the ways that you can think about impacting. So that's all encapsulated in that logo.
And then I want to take you back to your journey again. How influential has been your father in your career, in your life? And because I've read a little bit about him, so tell me about that piece. Not many people know. They all that they see is Saurav and Euler. There's a journey behind you as well. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think our journey has been, I think, fairly, I would say, interesting one. I mean, coming from village of Bihar, I mean, all the that you can think of, and coming from there, and I think studying in TPS Arkipuram, going to Cornell, starting one company, then doing the second company. I think that for me represents, to be honestly, like all the partners that I would say that have been there in my journey and have somewhere I would say brought me here, right? That is just the manifestation, like one of I mean, there's equal importance of mom, there's equal importance of family, then Sulab International. I think all those teachers who have taught patiently. I mean, I think before I could read, I would say Hindi or English, I think that taught me differential equations. I mean, yeah, I mean, so I mean, I liked maths as a kid, and my dad was extremely great at math, right? So before I could get to 6th class, he taught me all calculus, algebra, everything, and that's could be one of the reason why I like engineering a lot, right? I mean, because I can fundamentally go as deep as possible and try to look at that. So I think in him I see the manifestation of, like, you know, all the ecosystem, like, you know, that's trying to push you, because at the end of the day, the I would say the zeal or the thinking to give back, a lot of it comes from that, and I think my family has been there, and even till now, like pushing that, because and that constant push to, like, you know, I mean, I think almost every parent today wants the best for their kids, like the best education, right? And they would not compromise on education. They are willing to let go of land. They are willing to do everything possible to make sure their kids have the best sort of education, right? And somewhere that's, like, I mean, the push that he demonstrated, the push that mom demonstrated, I think somewhere that also got subconsciously developed in me, like I don't think I would be doing all of this, I don't if they would not have done. So I mean, I almost I mean, as much as you kind of go up and you find success, I think it's I mean, it's very difficult to disassociate yourself from all of it. But engineering to matlab, I mean, you can't I mean you can't go too high. I mean, there is so many challenges that you so you're always grounded. But I think the struggle and I would say their constant push to like, you know, give me the best sort of opportunity, give everyone the best opportunities, I think that has instilled me in somewhere that I am pushing also, and trying to see how do you do some of the things that sometimes even I break down and like think यार ये क्या चल रहा है मतलब like I mean there are all these rosy days that you see, but I mean behind the rosy days you yourself know, like I mean there are lot of like overwhelming days that you go through. I mean and you have to constantly push yourself, and I think a lot of that so for me it's just a source of, I think, inspiration. I would say a source of that I mean that source of energy to push and be able to take on, I think, all the battles. I think it's
Right. That's very sweet of you to be talking about your dad as an inspiration, because not many people and not many kids these days do think of their parents as inspiration. So kudos to you. Now you, like your dad was an inspiration to you, you are an inspiration to many other people out there in the ecosystem, to those people out there, those young entrepreneurs out there. So what are the lessons you may want to leave for them? What are the things, especially for those who want to get into the EV space or even the clean mobility space? Any takeaways from them? Some of the learnings you can impart to them, Saurav?
See, focus is, I think, so one of the thing I would say is the most cliche one. सब कोई बोलता है यार focus करो, बचपन से पापा भी बोलते focus करो, kids teachers school में बोलते हैं focus करो, right? Like I think having that laser focus is extremely important, because what it means is saying no to a lot of things, right? When you want to, especially when you want to start a company, you're excited, you want to do a lot of things, and suddenly without realization you're saying yes to all the different kind of ideas, and like you're doing this. What you need to realize, and what I have also realized over a period of time, that there are only few things that you are going to do really well, and it's important that your bandwidth, your time, your energy, capital, your team's time, energy, everything, right? I mean, it's fairly limited that you have at the starting. Where do you want to push that the maximum? I think identifying that core is very important,
Right.
and that core identification means saying no to a lot of things. It might be that you pick up some of those things because it was not solved and it was not there, and hence that was a way that you started. But you need to be true to yourself, and I think when you're true to yourself and you maintain that focus, I think you start to differentiate a certain thing. When you, it's like when you get up in the morning, every single day, I mean, do you want to use Colgate toothpaste, or it's a close-up toothpaste, it's this brand versus this brand, this car versus this car. Throughout the day you are going to be thrown with multiple brands, right? What is it one thing about your startup that people are going to associate? What is one thing that people are going to remember, the value that you are going to give to them? I think all of that gets sharpened if that laser focus is there.
Right, absolutely.
So that is super important, and I mean, I think I mean an average, I would say, person with laser focus is much important than like a brilliant, I would say, a PhD or a like a very learned person doing multiple things. It's I mean, that's the secret of, like, I would say that one of the things that you don't need the I mean the best of the talent. It's okay to have people who are really passionate. I mean, passion is going to bring that passion and that laser focus that you want to that. I think that is valuable, because I mean, when you're starting, you're not going to attract all the way. I mean, yes, you would want, but let's also tell you the reality part of it. Every other startup is going to try to get so then you're going to get limited. I'm saying some great people, right? And then, but with that and the people that you have really that focus. So I can't stress this enough. Like, I mean, I myself have been guilty of like going straight then coming back. So it's an important, I would say, thing.
Totally.
The second, I would say, thing, I mean, is the culture part, right? as much as it is important about setting goals about revenue, setting goals about EBITDA, setting goals about profitability, or even sustainability, carbon emission, all of that is important business goal. But having a culture is your secret, I would say, weapon. I mean, if ever, like, I mean, to compete against, I mean, it could be like Euler, where we think of David versus Goliath story, or it could be in your own story. Having that culture is going to be very important, and the way culture is like what my team would be doing right now at the factory or the office when I'm not around. How are they making decision? What are the things that are guiding them to make that decision? Because the rules, you can't write possibly like to every precise thing, but what are the things that you can give them a guiding direction so that they are able to like, you know, think. Like one of the thing I can share, one of, just to add to this, like for instance, we say velocity, not speed. I mean, velocity is important, not speed, and you can infer it in multiple ways. What it could mean for an HR is that that we're interested at the end of the day about our vehicle means performance, right? And we want people to perform. It is not about them spending 10 hours, 15 hours in office. It's about spending that 8 hours, but with a right direction. In velocity and speed, that's the only direction is the part, right? You're coming to office, but if the focus is not there, if the goal is not there, then you're wasting their time, your time, and everybody's time, right? So that could be a goal that, I mean, so it's a very simple thing, velocity. When you're having discussion, I mean, you can have endless discussions, open up multiple points and talk about multiple ways. It's all good. But if you don't have the, you might not ever achieve the, so sometime the context of the conversation needs to be established to make sure the work gets done, right? And so that velocity, not speed, is one area, like one point that we wrote at, again, but engineering and like physics and yeah. So basically saying having a goal and direction is very, very important. It's less about the amount of effort or like in the different direction. So having that culture is very important, because things are going to get bad. I mean, there is not that you are always going to wake up to a rosy day, right? I mean, the journey is extremely difficult, and if you are in some of the, I would say, manufacturing or heavy hardware related, then it's going to be further complicated, right? And in all of those days, you need to have this communication about culture, and you need to often stress those, and you need to build that very, very strongly in your early team members, so that when they are thinking about building the company, they are able to preserve that as you are passionate about it. So I would say laser focus, the culture, these are like definitely, I would say, things that I hope that, like, if there's a book written on entrepreneurship, these are the first two chapters. Then let's talk about P&L, balance sheets, and EBITDA, all of that. But these should be the.
So, are you planning to write a book sometime soon?
I hope that one day I do want to write about my experiences, because it has been very, very funny experience, like building, like all kinds of things that you have done, all kinds of ghosla like kind of thing, right?
Like, which brings me to the next question.
Like, so I'll tell you a funny story. So there was this time, I mean, I don't want to name like the customer or anything, like just for the anonymous. So I mean, customer wanted to see our factory before they wanted to give us the order. And we didn't had factory. We used to work on the land of like some supplier that they had given, because as you're starting, you don't have money to, like, you know. So we convinced the supplier to let me use their office, and like I become, like, you know, the manager. The supplier was like one of the most, I would say, you know, the supportive one. Said, yeah, I will go. And he told all of his employees that he's your boss today. I am going on vacation. He went. I mean, when the, I would say, the partner came, they saw, they like, all good, this is the big, or they saw the setup, हाँ ये नहीं कि आज जाएंगे कल गायब हो जाए. so these are the things that you have to do. I mean, to build your business. This is a way early time. So there are things that probably you will find in that book, not
Sure.
in like this.
I'm looking forward to that, which brings me to that next question I was asking to ask is, fast forward 5 years from now, where do we see Saurav? Where do we see Euler?
Hopefully you should be seeing Euler in every city of India. That for sure. If I mean, we would like to take Euler global also, I think, in some of that time, but definitely every city you should see. You should definitely see us doing more than, I would say, three-wheeler, maybe other formats of vehicle as well.
And the three stripes that we talked about.
And maybe a bit of that as well. I think the vehicle part itself might stretch like another 10 years before you get to the next one, but some work on the other one. I think that's definitely, I would say, our most important. And I don't know, but maybe you can buy our shares publicly also.
Oh, yes,
Like that
yes,
would
yes.
be a good
That would be a good.
good goal to list. I think as a milestone. It's not like a goal, but I think in the journey it's important,
important milestone to have,
to be there, to be.
And I wish you all the best for that. But then
Thank you.
there's one important question, which is, what about Saurav? Where do you see, what do you think of doing differently over the next 5 years?
So I think for the last 6-7 years, and then I think next 5 years, I think Saurav and Euler will be a bit interchangeable. I think, like, because 90% of my right now time is here. I think that's how I mean that's I mostly have been spending my time. Other than this, I actually don't know what else I do other than Euler in the day. Like, I mean, I do eat a bit of sleep, I go home, and then some of that sometimes I feel is
You
running
eat, sleep.
like the requisite amount of food required to keep you awake and work, I think.
No, that's awesome. So with that, Saurav, thank you so much. This has been an interesting conversation. You've taken through your journey, a lot of what people did not know about you as well. And you also talked about the inspiration that you have and close to that. And we hope to see Euler in all its three formats and all its formats on the road, in the air, and in the sea as well. With that, thank you so much, Saurav, and wish you all the best. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me and patiently listening to all of these, and also digging up some of these questions. And
Always.
Thank you.
An interesting person requires
It
interesting
was
questions.
great being here, and yeah, I wish you all the best for the show, and hopefully I see you here again sometime.
Absolutely. And with that, to the audience out there, Saurav has been a great guest, but in case, and he's tried to answer many of the questions that I could put together, but there might be questions that you may have. So you can reach out to us, you can comment in the podcast or in the videos. And in the meanwhile, make sure that others who want to listen to this show, so please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Keep the good old word going out there. And till next time, this is Maxson Lewis, your host on Maxson Mobility, signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.